The EduTech guys present a conversation from our live coverage of FETC in Orlando, Florida on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. Enjoy the program.
I'm Kristen Brooks, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. My school is in Woodstock, Georgia, so Woodstock Elementary.
Yeah.
And I teach kindergarten through 5th grade in an iPad lab.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yes,
That's fun.
Very fun.
That's really awesome.
Public school.
Yeah.
So we're I started it about 4 years ago, and it's been really great. A lot of other schools in our district have now started doing that this year, so it's a good program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so it's great to see it growing, and then
Yes.
other buildings or other schools in your district adopting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and that's the key to integrating, is to get those active, those high flyer teachers that really want to do it, and so the other teachers can come and go, wait, what's going on in here?
Right,
And the
right.
other kids start talking. Oh, you got to go down here and see this.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
I
awesome.
actually had a sweet story the other day. I met some parents outside of school, like totally random, that their child goes to our school, and we put that connection together. And I said, well, yeah, he was not at our school last year, right? And she's like, oh, yes, we moved. But his big complaint was, Mom, they don't have an iPad lab at my new school. We need to move back. So he's back this year.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
So I
Well,
was
that
like,
also says a
oh,
lot for those
thank you.
parents
Yeah.
too.
That's
Wow.
better than a Yelp review. That's
Man.
really pretty good.
I know, right? So I was
Yeah,
like, oh
that's
my
awesome.
goodness, thank you so much.
So, what are some of the things that you're doing with your students that
Yeah.
they obviously want their parents to move back
Yes.
into the district?
Basically, I just try to use the iPad as a creation tool.
Okay.
Games are great, and we do games,
Sure.
but we try mostly to create. So that's kindergarten through 5th grade,
Mm-hmm.
creating on a daily basis. So we have 1,200 students at our school, so I see them about once a week, and just using the iPad, using the apps that come on an iPad, so Keynote and the new Clips app, and just having them create things to show what they know from their regular classroom.
Yeah. I love clips.
It's
Well,
great,
And I
fantastic.
think it's great that you're using the apps that just come with the device.
Yes.
You don't have to go buy anything. You don't have to go download anything. Let's use what's already on here and show the students that even with the quote unquote most basic of tools, or the included tools, you can still accomplish so much.
Yes, and that was one of my focus points, was that out of a box they could take an iPad and just get started and start creating things, and doing things that, even like I tell them a lot, I'm like, you can teach your parents how to do this. They may or may not know, be kind.
Yeah.
But when you get home, show them what you are learning,
Yes.
and they might say, hey, show me how to do that, especially like with the Clips app, because it's brand new.
Yeah.
So we use GarageBand. The students love that, and I have to give a plug to Seesaw, because
Yeah.
we do use a lot of Seesaw,
Oh,
so
yeah,
that the
sure.
parents can see, because the first year,
We like 'em.
I saw that. That's what made me remember. The first year, the parents really had no idea what the iPad lab was. They were
Right.
like, yeah, we don't know what our kids do, but they love it. So I was like, I need to find something that can bring them into the classroom without them having to come to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Seesaw is fantastic, and actually, this morning I was, I have a substitute, and I left an activity for them to do on Seesaw about our snow days last week, and it's a snowy selfie. And so my students, I was at breakfast looking through what they're already creating today, which is phenomenal for me as a teacher
Yes.
to not be there, but be able to see what they're already creating without me there, so they
Yes,
can do it without
exactly.
me.
Well, and you hit a nail on the head in terms of what we grew up with as a snow day is, that's not really, it's getting to be where that's not even a thing anymore. You're not within the four walls of the school, but they're still learning. There's still things that you can do,
Right.
and yes, you're still going to get to have fun and play in the snow. But it's not a day that you necessarily, I don't know how your district is, but it's not necessarily a day that we're going to have to make up later, because there were some assignments and there were some things that you had to accomplish, and then put those into a digital portfolio that can be evaluated.
Yeah.
Right, yes,
And
agreed.
Once we get other teachers and parents to understand that, it's going to change the way we do our business.
It is.
It really is.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, so for here, what's your presentation on here?
It is on Keynote and Clips.
Okay, cool.
So it is called Creating Clever Content, and
Yeah.
it's a workshop on Thursday at 10:30 to 12:30.
Cool.
If anybody wants to join, I would love
Yeah.
to have them. And I'm focusing this time on more elementary things. Obviously, what I'm teaching literally can be used K through 12, but I felt like, a lot of times when I first started going to conferences, there was not a lot of specific elementary items.
Right.
So I like to throw those in so that people that are just, oh, I just want to see elementary, I just want my stuff, that there's something there for them.
That's
Well,
really cool.
my wife for a long time taught second grade, and that was one of her biggest complaints. Was she said, yes, there's elementary stuff, she said, but usually it's like it's the fourth to sixth grade,
Right.
which is at that point you're almost not elementary anymore, or and so to me, I think it's great that you're addressing the folks that are starting at the K level, and
Yes.
that K2, K4, K6, and like you said, you're showing that yes, you can do this at the higher grades, and there's all kinds of cool things that they'll learn how to do, mostly because of their development and what have you, and their
Sure.
capacity to understand these much more complex, designs and how you put things together. But by the same token, you got kindergartners who are not only creating the content, but then putting that content in a place that can be viewed by parents, teachers. I mean, these are kindergartners
I
you're
know.
talking about.
And my kindergarten, people say that to me at conferences and on Twitter, can your kindergartners really do that? So then I started having kindergartners like holding their iPad. So it's not just a picture of an iPad. It's like, no, I really
Yes,
made
I'm
this.
here. This is me.
They can use the Keynote. They can use clips. And I actually, a lot of times, because I do have those fifth graders at my school, I will have the fifth graders, beta club, different kids like that come in to help the kindergartners. So
Yeah.
if it is something like we did coding dot and dash robots with kindergartners, and they were actually making little streets for them, and the fifth graders just came in and helped them. So it was a great activity, and the fifth graders feel so empowered
Yes.
when they can share what they know and what their expertise is with a little kindergartner, and then the kindergartner is looking up to this fifth grader like, oh my gosh, you're the best thing since sliced bread
Right.
because you're in here
Yes.
helping me.
Everybody,
Yes.
loves, everybody loves to appear.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a really interesting thing, that it's great that you're doing elementary level, because I'm a true believer that elementary teachers, when they grasp something, when they get a hold of it, they use it everywhere they can. Unlike secondary, and I'm not knocking secondary,
sure.
but once they go, wait, I can do this with Keynote and I can do this with clips, they're going to use it in math and reading, and they're going to use it across the board. And those kids are going to pick that up and learn to use it as a multifaceted Swiss Army knife
Exactly.
for everything that they're looking for. Is that what you see?
Yes,
That
and-
elementary teachers pick that up quicker?
And that's what I want the kids to walk away with when they, leave my school in fifth grade. Personally, I am an Apple Distinguished Educator, so I started using Keynote probably 6 or 7 years ago, and really just kind of thought of it, I can do this great slideshow that has these cool effects. But then when I really started learning it, I was like, oh my goodness, I can make everything that I need to create as a teacher on Keynote. And it gives me a way to share it and save it and put it in other items, and just learning that was huge.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if I can instill that in my students, that they can use this one app to create everything, then that's going to be such a time saver and almost like mind-blowing to them. And they'll say, well, what should I use? I'm like, I don't know. You go in and decide, what should you use? Which one do you prefer? That kind of thing, giving the question back to them.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
And what's great about that is, it empowers them that they get to make the choice, and at the same time, it hopefully anyway, it gives them the freedom to play with a couple of things. Well, I tried this in this particular app and I didn't like the way that came out, so I decided to put it in Keynote instead,
Sure.
or I decided to use this other app. And sometimes they'll come up with an app you didn't even know was out there. And you're like, wow, A, I didn't know that app was out there, and B, I didn't know you could do that with it. And a lot of times, when you give students that openness and that freedom, a lot of times they'll come up with ways to use an app that the people who created the app didn't even think about.
Right.
And so then when that gets shared and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, my second grader figured out that you could do XYZ with your app by doing, by tweaking this one thing, and they'll be like, holy cow, wait a minute, we didn't even see that happening.
Right.
And then of course that could fire some things off in the app designer, and they go, wait a minute, that means we could do this or that. It's
Yes.
so cool. I mean, it really is. And to think these are elementary students who are in charge of their own learning, and not just their own learning, but the development and demonstration
Right.
of what they're learning.
And feel very blessed at my school. I actually have already worked a lot with Brain Pop and Osmo and Seesaw with that exact thing. Like they would send things for my students because I have K through 12, K through 5, that my kids could beta test for them.
Sure.
And so all of those companies were really just gracious in asking my students to do that and then actually listening to what their response was. And then the next year, my kids saying, they did that. They made that change. Hey,
Yeah.
Brain Pop added that like we suggested. Or, Seesaw added where you could do multiple pictures instead of just one picture at a time, which my 5th graders literally had a little celebration because they were like, they did it. They added it, So that is really special to my
Yes.
students as well, that, the developers are listening. They want their feedback, and that you don't have to wait until you're an adult.
Right.
That as a child, there is somebody who wants to hear what you have to say and will adjust or make changes for that. So
Yes,
it's really
exactly.
great.
and how cool is that to know that you had a part in this company changing their program because of your feedback? I mean, we get excited when somebody listens to us. We reach out to whoever, Microsoft or Walmart or whoever it is, and when we suggest something, and then like, oh, that's a great idea. Thanks. We'll take that, and then we see it later, and we're like, oh, that's awesome. We get excited as adults.
Exactly.
I can't imagine as a student. Here this is, there's this big company and we use their stuff, and
Right.
you fire it up one day and there's the thing you talked about and you suggested, and it's right there in front of the world. Everyone
Right.
who uses it now has that particular feature or change or whatever.
And then
That's
also
awesome.
having children understand what the word beta test means.
Right.
Like
Oh, yeah.
I had to explain it very
Yeah, sure.
explicitly because we're seeing stuff that's not on the market, and explain to them you are allowed to tell your parents, but you can't discuss with grandma or grandpa or the neighbor down the street that may not go to our school, that kind of thing. And they really had a good understanding, because I would always tell them, when you see it on TV, like with Osmo, then you can talk about it. And they were great. Like
Yeah.
they would come to me and say, I saw the commercial. Can I talk about it now? Yes. So it's really cool. And being able to use that term so that when they
Yes.
create things, I'm like, well, you have to find a friend to beta test your Clips video to make sure there's nothing missing, and they understand what that means now.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah, it's really
Oh.
cool. Thank
and,
you.
And to give them the vocabulary that, I mean, really, no, they wouldn't have had and otherwise for any reason. It's just
Right.
not something we normally bring up in education, whether it's, I mean, really, whether it's an iPad class or whatever it is, it's not something that's necessarily going to come up. But when they're a part of that, and now that is part of the vocabulary, and now forever they will know
Right.
what beta testing is, and that they were a part of beta testing, and some of those things came to fruition.
Pretty
That's
cool.
freaking awesome. I'm just going to throw that out.
So if our
really
listeners
is.
want to reach out to you, Twitter handle.
Yes, it's at Kristen Brooks 77.
Okay.
So,
Other
Kate, I don't know if I
contact
need to spell that
information?
or.
We'll tweet it out too.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Basically, I have a website.
Yeah,
So,
cool. Okay.
it's just KristenBrooks.net.
Awesome.
So, trying to keep it easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Well, awesome, man. Thank you for coming by today.
Thank you. I
And
so enjoyed it.
Good luck on your presentation. I know you're going to knock it out of the park.
Thank you.
You're very exciting to listen to.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I actually saw y'all doing this last year, and I was
Yeah.
kind of like, that looks really interesting. And I kind of stood and observed.
Yeah.
And so when I got the notice that y'all were looking for people, I was like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, this is my turn.
Well, that's awesome.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you
So
so
I'm
so
excited
much.
to be here. Thank you.
And you get a little tchotchke parting gift for putting up with us and sitting in the hot
Oh,
seat.
no, it was an honor. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, we were
if
very
you,
glad to have you
after
here.
you do your presentation and everything, if you see the seat open and think of something, Epiphany, stop by and talk to us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Very good to meet you, Kristen.
meet you.
You've been listening to a recorded conversation from EduTech Guy's live coverage of FETC 2018. For more information about EduTech Guys, visit edutechguys.com. And thanks for listening.